Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. My name is Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, man, what's happening?
Oh, not a heck of a lot. Good to have you back, sir. I'm
Is
glad
it?
you're feeling better. So, let's shout out to Pete Williams filling out in for us last week and having a little bit of conversation. We spent a lot of time on a lot of MLB stuff, so I was excited much as we did.
I leave you alone with one of your buddies, and you spend 87 minutes on a player that played 30 years ago. So it's what happens here.
Yeah,
you guys are stuck in the past.
It happens. It happens, with lots of things going on, and now I laughed with you a minute ago as I normally have up the score page on one of the many tabs on my computer and realize, oh, it's just the All-Star game happening tonight. That's it.
That's it in almost all of sports. There's not much out there at all. Some very local news that is very cool. There's a bunch of teams that are going to be playing in big competitions. The 16 and under softball team for the LCO is about to head out to Florida to play in their World Series. I know some of the baseball Little League teams are headed to California. Is that where those ones are headed?
I think so.
I believe the 10 and under, or maybe it was a 12 and under that qualified. Maybe both. It's been a long week, but both of them have qualified for their tournaments. The Cubs, the LC Cubs have qualified for the state tournament that starts next week. So just because high school's over, there's still a lot of local sports going on right now. They've been very, very busy.
Yeah, tons of stuff going on from a lot of these kids trying to find fundraisers and stuff. So anything from car washes to crumble cookie I did last Wednesday. Dad and them did a car wash last week. There are people doing Krispy Kremes. I think you covered that for your story on the Tribune on Sunday. So there's
softball team made up to $30,000 that they were able to fundraise in a week and a half when they threw that team together. Everything with all the rainouts kind of pushed everything back, and they did a fantastic job. A little bit different there as they really only had to beat the one team. There's not a lot of softball competition. We need more softball teams out there for sure, but congratulations to them. They went down there and just straight dominated their games, and we'll see what they can do when they head. I think it's Treasure Cove, Florida, is where they're headed to. Come later on this week. So wish them the best of luck. You can check that out. If you go to my story on LM Tribune, there's a link to where you can find the live streams and stuff. And I believe their first game is Friday.
I think you're right. And then you and I have been following. I know I have a buddy of our, Dean Richardson. His kid has been playing with the 12 and under youth group, and so they will be heading back out to do their tournament here pretty quick. So excited to see that happen.
Sorry, I had to switch out real quick. My light was being all weird, so I didn't want to accidentally turn on the strobe lighting while I was on here, so get out of the way. You brought up something to me. It's crazy. I remember hearing all the LCO Hall of Fame stuff. I felt like it was 2 months ago. Apparently, it was a year ago, and we have more Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, a couple of Hall of Fame folks got inducted on Sunday for at the general meeting and bowling tournament. A big name, and we both have worked for him. We're kind of the reason that he why we've got the NFL league that we'd run.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you and I were the reason he finally retired.
Well, that might be it too. Yeah. Lance Reinert was inducted into the LCO Hall of Fame for bowling, former owner of Lancer Lanes and now current manager of the bowling center, as he has sold off his shares for that. And so is now on his way of retirement stage, which well-deserved, as much as he has been couple different bowling centers in the
Mm-hmm.
Northwest that he's been part of. He is a Clarkson boy, grown up here all of his life, and so congratulations, Lance, and with your induction. A couple others that were inducted, trying to figure out the where they went in with their merits, but that was Karen Stewart, Ann Fuchs, and Don Profit, also getting into the Hall of Fame.
There you go. Also, some LC news for you. The Warriors hired Katie Heinrichs Palmer as the assistant athletic director. She's a former LCSC volleyball player back in 2007 through 2010. So she's going to join the crew as well. So we can welcome her to the team. There's a great group at LC already, and what they do for especially the NAI World Series and all these other sports that, I mean, it seems like every day now they keep announcing that the Warrior sports programs are winning all these academic awards, which just shows that they push towards the academic side as well. And then what they do to build these sports programs over there at LC has been fantastic. So Katie's going to be a good addition to that as well.
Yeah, highly sought after. She had spent some time up at Gonzaga and also at WSU, being a Pullman native. So excited to finally meet her. And like you said, I mean, LC is just growing, and we're seeing so many more. You and I are so much more involved now with Alicia and Brooke and George and Danny and the whole group. So just feel like part of the team now. So I think this team she's going to be a great asset to the team.
Absolutely. But let's get into it. Let's get into the meat of the thing. There's not a lot of current sports going on. I think there were 3 WNBA games scheduled for today. I know women's soccer played yesterday as they ended up winning I can never say the Kakifa women's tournament. I don't follow soccer very much, but there's not a lot as far as current sports right now. The National League is defeating the American League 2-0 in the All-Star game in the top of the third. I think we're all rooting for a tie.
Yes, I would love to see a tie.
Let's just bring on the old home run derby. Oh, I've heard people complain about it. It's an exhibition game. I would rather see goofiness than an actual game. Mm-hmm. What sport has an actual good all-star game anymore?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that happens has to be home run derby. I mean, that's a game.
But which sport has the best all-star quote unquote game? None of them do anymore.
Not anymore.
MLB keeps it closest to the real thing. NHL went completely goofy with theirs, and I love it. So I think that's the best one because they went, you know what? It's an all-star game. It's an exhibition. Let's have fun with it. But it's all about the side stuff, which is why I'm surprised we have not added more than just the home run derby. How we do not have races or some kind of weird skills challenges in Japan, they do a bunt competition. Let's do that. I mean, nobody bunts in the Major League Baseball, but still, let's see any of that right now. But as far as all-star games go, it's going on the side. I do not care. I don't. And I'm so glad it no longer counts as who's going to be the home team or have home field advantage for the World Series, because that was the dumbest thing of all time. But it's a few days break for some of these players, and it gives us a chance to kind of look back at what is quote unquote the first half of the Major League Baseball season. Everyone's a bit over half right now. We talked about basically that halfway mark 2 weeks ago, last time I was on, and I guess we will start with the big story. Seattle is 9 games back. Congratulations.
It doesn't matter.
Is that not what you mean?
That doesn't matter. They're 9 games back, but they're a game and a half up in the wild card. Game up in the wild card. But 1 game short of the tying their team record of 15 wins in a row. They gained over just the last week, and I went back and looked at last week. They gained 3.5 games on Houston, and if they keep a pace like that,
if they never lose again, they may catch Houston. That's what you're saying.
No. If they keep the pace of getting 2 back every 2 games from them every week, I think it'll be a good
stuff. If you gain 2 games on somebody every week,
well, as you're gonna see. That is my game of the week as
Well,
we get
yes,
down
it's
to
a
game
good
of the week here.
series.
It's going to be a great series, but uh, huge implications coming with that. Like it could be a major swing, but
Yeah, it could knock
biggest
them right back out of it. Yes.
but best win streak going into the All-Star break. They now own that one. They are 4 games better than 3 other teams: the 75 Reds, the 35 Tigers, and the 45 Cubs. So, to have such a large winning streak going into the All-Star break, it's huge. And I feel bad. I think a lot of those guys really wanted to start playing. They finally hit their groove. We saw Julio Rodriguez keeping his groove on last night in the home run
Yeah,
derby.
but is that groove going to mess up the rest of his season?
It'll be interesting to see how he comes back on Friday.
Is your hopes up a bit?
Are my hopes up?
Yeah.
Right now we're sitting in a little bit higher in the wild card than what I thought we would be at this point. They just have gotten on a heater, but the big thing I think it's going to boil down to, and I was listening to the MLB morning show, the Central guys, and you look at the Mariner schedule, the last 20 days of the
Here we
schedule. Yeah,
go.
last
Jesus
20
Christ.
days of the schedule is going to looks extremely weak. We have over just under half the season left, but
Like 70 games ago. We don't need to look at the schedule. Who knows what these teams are going to look like come September? We got a couple weeks until the trade deadline, and that's going to be wild. This could be a wild trade deadline, or it could be like a lot of other trade deadlines where it looks wild and then nothing really happens. Speaking of the trade deadline, one name that's all of a sudden been thrown into that mix is Juan Soto. He turns down a 15-year, $440 million extension. Your thoughts?
and listening to part of that this morning, that would have only ranked him at like the 23rd highest player paid per year
Mm-hmm.
breakdown wise. So, in one hand, it's not bad, but you know, if I was offered 15 years to stay at the same place for that much money, you know, you might as well sign me up because why wouldn't I
No.
say that?
Right. If you're okay. So what you're just saying is if I was offered less money than what I was worth to stay at a horrible organization for more years than I would like to, sign you up.
I'm just saying job security. That's what I'm looking at. I mean,
Yeah, but
Washington.
you're
He's
secured
the
at a
main guy,
job of a team that won the World Series and then sold everyone.
and
They went
he's
the Miami Marlin route. And
he's
they're
the
getting
only
ready.
guy.
Now the rumors are that they're going to sell the team.
Yeah, the Washington needs to sell all of their teams and get new ownership in that whole area.
I don't blame Juan Soto at all. Yes, the $440 million sounds insane. None of us can understand sports money anymore. Like these contracts are way over the top. But like you said, it wouldn't even put him in the top 20 for yearly salary. He's one of the best players out there. He's under 25 years old.
23.
Yeah. So he's still got a couple years left on this current contract where he's not making a ton. He just added $1 million to that last night. But to me, I heard somebody else talk about this, and I 100% agree. I think this contract was brought out by Washington, knowing that Soto would turn it down, but then they could leak the information because it wasn't leaked by Soto's group that this contract was offered. So then they could go, hey, we offered this dude this much money, and he said no. So his price for us to trade him is even higher now. And it's just them trying to get as many prospects as possible. I don't think they really even wanted Soto to stick around because they're in a rebuilding phase as it is. And like Soto has said, he's the last man standing from that World Series team. And they're going to try to get as many prospects as possible. I don't think it was a realistic trade or a contract offered by Washington. And it's just trying to get as many prospects. Now, does it get traded before the deadline or not? That's the big question.
Yeah, I don't see it. I honestly don't see him moving until maybe next year during the off season. I think he will stay put there. As many people that wants to shake things up, move things around, sell off some of these teams that want to sell off some of their players. I think it won't happen until until that point. But there are teams right now that he would be a great spot for
Mhm.
any of those. He could be
There's
he would
there's
he'd be a
not
great move to add into I think into the Mets uniform, even a Yankee uniform. I think
to
he
any
would.
there's not one team that would get worse
Mhm.
by adding Juan Soto. Period. Then it's, can you afford a new contract with him, or is he a 2 or 3 year rental before he hits free agency? Either way, I think it's fantastic. Now you're going to have to give up basically your entire farm system to get him, and as whether or not you think that is worth it. I know the Texas Rangers, I think, are the betting favorites to get Juan Soto, which for this year doesn't make any sense, but they've made some big free agency moves last year, and this would just kind of top all of that as they try to build a team for the future. And they have no problem
Could
spending money. Like you said, the Yankees and Mets obviously are right up there because they could sign him. Now the Yankees need to re-sign Judge, and I don't think you're going to be able to re-sign Judge and sign Juan Soto. But
So I'm going to throw this team out at you, and just thinking about who is there, would he be a great fit for the team that self-imploded last year, that are still sitting around right now, that could be that team? Could he fit right in at San Diego?
oh, he could fit anywhere.
Play with Manny Machado,
Yeah,
Tatis, and
100%.
have. I think that team would probably benefit maybe the best
Oh yeah,
out of.
if you have a 2-3-4 of Machado, Soto, and Tatis when he's healthy, that's a ridiculous 2-3-4. And it's not like the rest of the lineup is pushovers. Now, could they afford then re-signing him? That would be difficult with some of the big names that they have. Um, but right now, I think a lot of these teams are not worried about how much money it's going to cost them to keep Soto. It's wondering how bare the minor leagues are going to be to trade for Juan Soto. And while his price is the highest right now because you get an extra half year with him if you trade him before the deadline, I'm with you. I think it happens in the offseason when teams can really take their time and kind of go over everything and come up with the best packages to get him. Speaking of money, MLB is going to start putting some company ads on helmets and uniforms. This is coming. I mean, this is coming to all sports, and I have no problem with it. I don't care. I really don't.
Yeah, I think it's going to be just another way that owners and NFL and players make a little bit of side money. So
Mhm.
there is one team that has already signed their contract. That is the 2023 San Diego Padres. They have already went into contract with Motorola, so it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see how that one goes. But yeah, it's inevitable. You look at and the biggest one that we watch every week, and I know you and I do. We try to
Mhm.
plug it so much as AFL. I mean,
Yep.
these AFL teams got Geelong is sponsored by Ford. Right on the
Mhm.
very back of their uniforms, you see this huge ad for Ford. Um,
Yeah, I'm a
some that
big
have
NASCAR fan. It's all sponsorships.
it's all sponsorship, yeah. And that, I mean, there's no way these teams could make any money without
Mhm.
those sponsorships. So
Yeah, I have no problem with it. They're not. It doesn't seem like they're going to be huge. They're not going to take up the whole jerseys like they do with some of the Aussie rules stuff. But either way, it's going to be extra money for the teams that they can spend on the players. Hopefully, that negates crazy price raises for stadiums. But I guarantee you, prices are not going to drop. Tickets to these games are not going to get less just because they're making money in a different direction. I'll just right now, it's not happening. Have you watched the first episode of this Derek Jeter documentary yet?
I did. I watched it right after as I was working on a little bit of notes last night. I was right after the home run derby, so I
How
watched the first episode and was
how is it?
highly. I enjoyed it. I am impressed. They just got to the '96 season, so they talked about '95. Where he was at in '95, shows him sitting in the Kingdom dugout watching the Mariners move on, and and they talked about Steinbrenner and Steinbrenner
Thanks
with
for
his.
taking Don Mattingly's best chance to win a World Series. I appreciate it. I haven't watched it yet. I will at some point. I had to go to work right after the home run derby. Actually, I was down there by the final round, so I haven't watched it just yet. Looks really interesting.
Mhm.
I will say that I did watch one sports related piece of media. Haley and I watched that Adam Sandler's basketball movie. Is it Hustle or something?
I have not seen that yet.
Go watch it. It is one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies now, especially the serious Adam Sandler. There's some funny stuff to it, but it's a very touching story of basically trying to get this player from a different country into the NBA while Adam Sandler is a scout and he's missing his family and stuff. It's very, very good. I didn't have high hopes for it, but it was like we saw it on there when we were trying to find something to watch, decided to watch it, and it's a very, very good movie.
I have to watch it. And this is coming from a guy that still has it recorded on his DVR. I still have not watched the Michael Jordan documentary.
Oh, that's so good. The
And
Michael Jordan documentary is fantastic. World Baseball Classic is still a thing. Mike Trout will be part of Team USA. That's good. I mean, if you really want to push the World Baseball Classic, you have to have the stars playing in it. So it's very cool that Mike Trout will be a part of it.
And I think Shohei Ohtani kind of dropped a hint as they were both being interviewed yesterday pre-home run derby that Ohtani was going to play for his home country. So it would be a great matchup because they were talking about if Ohtani would ever like to face Trout. And he said, yeah. That would be an awesome matchup to see.
Absolutely. Some injury news. Chris Sale, who just came back, his second start back, after having the rib issues, had a line drive come right back off his hand and broke his pinky on his pitching hand. So he is now out for another 4 to 6 weeks. That man cannot catch a break. And I know there's a lot of people that can't stand him and his attitude. And he threw that fit in the minor league dugout where he broke the TV. And I have to say, I applaud Chris Sale for his response afterwards, saying he was just trying to get a TV sponsorship deal. And it did not work. But no, just a bad break for Boston and a bad break for Chris Sale for sure.
Yeah, and he knew it as soon as he got up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's holding his hand up, walking straight to the dugout, and just seeing it the way it was bent and twisted and how much blood had already come out of it. So, just come back from rib injury and now turn around and go back to the IL. So,
and then Tampa Bay's Harold Ramirez breaks his right thumb after getting hit by a pitch on Sunday. So the American League East, where you have all 5 teams at least 500, are starting to suffer some injuries. Though, honestly, with Boston, you've only had Chris Sale back for a start. So it's not like it's a big hit compared to what you had earlier on in the year. But they were really hoping to have him in the second half, and they won't now till most likely September. Home run derby was yesterday. I have to say, I've never been the biggest fan of this head-to-head stuff. Or at least I wasn't at the beginning. But the more that I have seen it and the more has went on, there's a lot of drama that gets built with these. So I'm down for this. And I thought, especially Julio Rodriguez, there was a lot of fantastic showings in this home run derby.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's the mindset of how you come into the home run derby. So you've got to just jump out of the gate and swing away. Like, everybody was all about Alonso. He's built for this game. And you watched what he did. I mean, he's swinging very first pitch. There's no wasted effort. He is going right at it. Unbelievable showing by some of these athletes there yesterday.
It was interesting is Rodriguez was one of the few guys that went first and won. He just put up such ridiculous numbers. He was uncatchable. It was very cool to see Pujols beat Kyle Schwarber, though that really hurt Vegas, I think. I think it helped Vegas. It hurt everyone trying to win money in Vegas, as Richie had messaged me saying it was fixed. But you could kind of tell Schwarber wasn't really taking it serious and he was having fun, and then he just tried to turn it on a little too late. Ended up losing to Pujols. That was a very, very cool moment when everyone kind of surrounded Pujols, thinking he was only going to be there for the one round. He ends up being there for 2. Again, Rodriguez with over 60 home runs in the first 2 rounds, eliminating Alonso, keeping him away from the 3-peat. But There's only one of us right here that got the pick correct. That's me. Thank you.
Yeah, Juan Soto. We knew it was going to be him. I figured him being there in the final. I didn't know, but I figured it was going to be him and Alonso in there. Who would have figured a rookie, 21 years old, comes in and hits 63 home runs in the first 2 rounds? It's just crazy. He ends up with
Well, we'll get to
81.
it.
It's
We'll
just
get to it.
it's just crazy to think about. But the
There's
one I was more surprised didn't come out, it just didn't, he looked flat, was Jose Ramirez. He just didn't look comfortable up there.
he's not a home run
Swinging.
hitter. He's an average guy. He'll hit home runs for sure, but he's not somebody that's going out there trying to lift the ball at all times. Oh, Stanton hits a home run in the All-Star game. I just got a message from Richie. So woohoo, tied 2-2 there. But no, I thought the home run derby was good. It was pretty funny to watch the players get scared every time the pyro went off when they were doing the intros.
Ronald Acuna, how many times he jumped to the front of the stage was just funny. It was priceless. He hit dingers. Yeah,
dingers is the correct terminology.
I think the biggest one for me is the longest one was by Soto, and it was just 480 feet. We didn't see a 500 foot.
They're not in Colorado this year. The Dodgers stadium is not going to make it travel as far, but there was a lot. There was a lot of dingers hit yesterday. Quickly touch on the Major League Baseball draft. They went through 20 rounds over the last 3 days, 616 players picked. And I have to say, the first day, the first 2 rounds took for goddamn ever. Keeping that on in the background just to kind of watch. It took ideas from the NFL draft. It was actually in front of a crowd, which is something they usually don't do. And they drug it out like nobody's business. But then the next 2 days, they go through 18 rounds. And it's like a phone press conference call that they would just keep switching off to. And there were picks every 30 seconds. They were throwing them out so fast. That was nice. Especially because most of these names are not going to stay on the teams that they were drafted by the time they make the pros in 5 or 6 years. So none of us are going to remember any of this. It's a lot different than the NBA and the NFL as far as the draft goes.
You will see this when you watch the first week of the captain, and they show how he was drafted and how it was going in the draft room and everybody on the phone. I mean, that was kind of cool to think, okay, this is how the old school style was, in the early 90s.
But Jackson Holliday, the son of Matt Holliday, goes first to Baltimore. Drew Jones, the son of Andrew Jones, goes second to Arizona. So you had a famous dad to be up there in the draft. Both of them are 18-year-old high school students, so they're going to get paid for sure. We won't see them in the majors for 3-4 years, most likely, but nice picks for both of those. Unfortunately, nobody from LCSC or WSU gets picked in the draft. There were 4 Gonzaga players that went. Those are really the only players that are kind of local that ended up getting drafted in the 616 picks. And in fact, there were only 3 players that ever played that I could find that ever played in the NAIA. And only one of them played in this year's World Series. And that was Westmont's catcher, Simon Reed, who was drafted in the 10th round by the Los Angeles Dodgers. He went 1 for 10 with 5 strikeouts in the 2 games that Westmont had, and he ended up being picked in the 10th round. William Carey's left-handed pitcher, Chris Williams, went to Detroit in the 18th round. He struck out 90 in his 90 innings pitched. And a pitcher who was for British Columbia through 2020, and then all the COVID stuff happened, and they didn't play in 2021. So he actually went to Oregon. Right-handed pitcher Adam Mayer, who actually defeated LC back in 2020, was drafted by Atlanta in the 7th round, but he did have UCL stabilization surgery this year, so he has a bit of a road to come back in. But yeah, not a lot of NAIA representation now that they've dropped everything to 20 rounds instead of the 40 or so that they used to have.
Yeah, it was very shocking. Both you and I were watching the tracker most of the time. I go in about every 20 minutes and look and see, all right, did any LC people go, anybody local around? And just, it's kind of nice how they had the tracker and it was up to date pretty fast, and so we were
they
able to
were.
stay right on top of
You
it. So
leave.
you can.
Hey, like I said, Haley and I went to Costco. We were talking before the show. Haley and I went to Costco, spent about an hour shopping, and the last 5 rounds of that draft went while we were in Costco. Like I had my phone up just looking. 5 rounds in an hour. It was nice.
I didn't get to watch any of today's stuff, but just watching most of yesterday's and how quick it went. Once they started, I think they started at 11 o'clock Pacific time, and they were done by 3. Mm-hmm. So it was just crazy.
They go through it. All right. That's our MLB news. We'll get into some first half awards and such here shortly. But it's been a week since I was gone. I believe you stumped Pete.
I did.
Let's see if you can stump me. Let's get back to who am I.
Last week was Joey Bosa, so stumped him. I think you could have got that one. I went really easy. I really could have went. We want to say a couple happy birthdays because we always try to base it. I try to base it off happy birthday. Mm-hmm. I could have went Adam Morrison. His birthday is this week. The other person I could have went was Seth Brown. His birthday is this week. I figured those two would have been way too easy. So I still think you can get this one. Okay, who am I for this week? I was born in Arkansas and started playing baseball and football by the age of 10 years old. In high school, I played football, basketball, baseball, and track. I was a standout quarterback and free safety. I would receive all state honors in my junior and senior year in baseball. Those are your 4 clues.
I hate your first round guesses. I don't even type. I start to type them out and I just go, it's pointless.
Well, here, I will drop them in our notes for you.
It's not going to help me. Like, I'm going to care who is a all-pro in high school for their junior and senior years. I don't care. It's not going to click anything. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Jesus. All right, let's move on. Just get to the second round of that so I have any chance. All right, let's move on to our first half awards in Major League Baseball. And let's start in the American League, and let's go out with the easy one. The AL Rookie of the Year. And I will let you gloat because we both have given it to Julio Rodriguez, the Seattle Mariner.
Yeah, that's what this kid is doing. 16 home runs, 21 stolen bases. He could easily be and we think he's going to be a 30-30 man. If not, maybe a 40-40 man this year. I lean more to the 30-30. I will lean more to the 30-30.
I'll take that bet.
You don't think he'll make 30-30?
No. Not this year.
We're going to do lunch then?
No, I finally got one off. I think I owe you one more.
So I think he is probably hands down easily the easiest one there. Just with 50 RBIs too. He's just on a great pace right now, and I just love what he's bringing to the ball club. And it's hard to say this because I still don't see anybody ever getting close to what Ken Griffey meant for this organization, but they're putting the name of him being the next Ken Griffey Jr. in Seattle. Not quite yet, folks. Let's slow the roll. He's having a great year. Let's just slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, right now on Vegas Insider, Julio Rodriguez is a -400 to win the AL Rookie of the Year. Next on the list, Jeremy Pena from Detroit at +700. Then Bobby Witt Jr., Adley Rutschman, the catcher for Baltimore, and Joe Ryan are your top 5 for the AL Rookie of the Year. But right now it's all Julio Rodriguez, and he's been dominating. A lot more difficult competition in the AL Cy Young Award. My pick kind of got beat up there in his 1 inning of work at the All-Star game, but I don't care. All-Star game stats do not count. Shane McClanahan has been absolutely insane. Every time that I watch that guy pitch, I especially when he's up against the Yankees, I hate it because he has just been on fire. 10-3 on the year, 1.71 ERA, 147 strikeouts already, and batters just batting 176 against him as he has helped with the Rays be that top wild card team right now.
Yeah, he's looking unbelievable. And even it was funny listening to Dusty talk about not seeing any of his stuff. And and didn't want to see it in September when they play. But he is easily, I think, right there in the Cy Young running. I'm going to go with the old man, though. I'm going to go with Justin Verlander, what he's doing there in Houston. You know, he's got a couple more wins than Shane does. He's 12-3. His ERA just a smidge higher, 1.89 ERA, 108 strikeouts to just 19 walks, and batters batting 0.194, so 194. I mean, you look and put those stats next to each other. It's youth and it's veteran. So I mean, it depends on what happens over the next 60 games, but I think those two are hands down the front runners in this one.
Oh yeah, right now it is Mcclanahan and Verlander, like you said, very neck and neck, according to Vegas Insider. Shohei Ohtani's plus 700, Garrett Cole's plus 900, and Dylan Cease's plus 1100. Those are your top five as far as odds go for the AL Cy Young. And then we go to AL MVP. And I haven't looked yet as far as what the odds are. I put them up once you start giving your nomination, but I guarantee you Shohei Ohtani is the favorite to win the AL MVP just because of what he does both offensively and pitching wise. But for me, it's Aaron Judge. What he has been able to do, batting 284, now 33 home runs on the year, 70 RBI, 74 runs. That's 8 steals on top of it. It's been fantastic out there. What is he, 6'7", and he's out there in center field for the Yankees. Has been absolutely phenomenal. The contract that he is going to get in the offseason is insane. So he is my front runner for AL MVP.
I can't disagree with it because I wanted to put the same guy up there, but I went with the guy that we ended up have picked up, or I've picked a couple of times for player of the week. I'm going with Jordan Alvarez from Houston. I mean, Jordan has been unbelievable, batting 306. He's got 7 less home runs than Aaron does, but still 26 home runs, 60 RBIs, 57 runs scored. But the big thing for me, he's slugging 653. Right now, his batting number average is number 1. He's number 1 in slugging, number 1 in OPS, second in home runs behind Aaron Judge. If I had to pick, I think I would lean just a little bit right now to Aaron Judge, but both of them are right now 1-2 and a lot closer than we probably think.
And just looking, I was right. Shohei Ohtani does lead the odds as far as Vegas Insider goes. He's at minus 105. Aaron Judge is at plus 140. Jordan Alvarez is plus 1,100. Then Mike Trout at plus 2,000, as well as Rafael Devers are your top 5 odds leaders for the AL MVP, according to Vegas Insider. Let's go to the National League, and this Rookie of the Year is tight to me. There's 2 Atlanta players right now that I think are battling it out for the Rookie of the Year. You went in a different direction, though.
Yeah, I went with the third baseman from St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis is staying right there, but I went with Brendan Donovan. Right now, batting 287, just 2 home runs, but 30 RBIs, 29 runs scored. 17 of his 62 hits are for extra bases. So, that's like 1 out of every 4 hits is an extra base hit for this guy. I think he is going to be that next step for the Cardinals here in the next couple of years. So
for me, I did go with one of the Atlanta players. I went with the pitcher, Spencer Strider. Just 4-3 as far as his record goes with a 3.03 ERA, but 114 strikeouts already. Fantastic for a rookie. 1.05 whip, 180 average against. To me, it was really between him and Michael Harris, the other Atlanta Brave, and they are the top 2 as far as odds go. 175 for Strider, 200 for Harris. O'Neal Cruz, who just got called up very recently, is third at plus 800. Is it Seiya Suzuki, the Cubs player, is at plus 1,200, and Nolan Gorman is at plus 1,600 with Donovan in 6th right now at plus 2,000. Those are how the odds stack up for Rookie of the Year, but mostly pretty close. NL Cy Young, give me Sandy Alcantara on a horrible team with Miami, but he has been nearly unhittable. 9-4, 1.76 ERA. How about the most innings pitched in the entire Major League Baseball in a era where pitchers don't go past 5 innings? Alcantara is eating up innings for this horrible team.
I want to say he has 140 something.
somewhere in there. 123 strikeouts throughout. Fantastic on a bad team. So give me Alcantara.
Yeah, I think he was like 144 innings or some silly number with that. I'm going to go with the guy right there next with him, and just because the win-loss doesn't look, he's lost a couple of close games. I'm going to go with Milwaukee's Corbin Burns. I mean, 7-4. Yeah, that's a little bit misleading with that, but an ERA just over 2, 144 strikeouts to just 29 walks. So he's basically a 5-1 K to strikeout or K to walk ratio. And then batting average against just 180. I mean, it's just crazy to think that he's holding opponents to 180 or less.
For sure. As far as, again, Vegas Insiders go, Sandy Alcantara is the leader at minus 130. Corbin Burns is second, plus 700. Then Joe Musgrove at 1,400. Tony Gonsolin at plus 1,500. And Max Fried at plus 1,600. Those are your top 5 there. Let's go to the MVP. And this is an interesting one. What do you got?
For MVP, I got to go with the guy that he made the move, and I think he's finding a different light being out in LA. I'm going to go with Freddie Freeman. I mean, he's second in batting average at 321. The home run numbers are down, not like that they were in Atlanta, but still 59 RBIs, 60 runs scored. He has just brought that energy from what he had in Atlanta to LA, and on a team where you've got Mookie Betts, Clayton Kershaw, and a team that has been winning consistently. He just is still putting up numbers that he can be dominant for another couple of years.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with Paul Goldschmidt. Took him a year or two to really kind of get acclimated with St. Louis after leaving Arizona. He's been ridiculous this year. 330 average, 20 home runs, 70 RBIs. He's top 6 in each of the 3 categories in the Triple Crown. First in average, second in RBIs, and tied for 6th in home runs. Add in the 5 stolen bases just for fun. He's having a phenomenal year for a Cardinals team that is battling right now for one of those last wild card spots. You look at Vegas Insider, and Goldschmidt is your leader at minus 110. Machado is second at 550. Alonso is third at 700. Mookie Betts at plus 1,100. And then Austin Riley is 5th at 1,400. Your Freddie Freeman pick is 6th right now, tied with Trey Turner at plus 1,600.
Yeah, and you said it's all about St. Louis now. So they're half game back. They're still trying to push to get there. So it's not, the NL is not clear cut as much it seems as the top 3 in the American League.
And let's get right to that. Let's get to our second half predictions. Let's look at the American League first. Currently, right now, your division leaders are the Yankees, Astros, and Twins. Yankees with a 13-game lead in the East, Twins with a 2-game lead in the Central, Houston with a 9-game lead in the West. Your 3 wildcard teams right now, Tampa Bay is up a game and a half, Seattle is up a game, and Toronto is that 3rd wildcard spot, up 2 games over Boston. Cleveland is 2.5 back. Baltimore and the White Sox are 3.5. We'll say Texas at 7.5 back, but I think that is a bit too far. So right now we are looking at 10 teams in the American League for 6 spots. Would you agree, disagree?
I think so. As much as we want to put Corey Seager and Texas maybe in the talk, Corey's got to go totally nuts if they want to keep their chance to,
or they trade for Juan Soto.
Or they trade there. But I think you're right. I think it's either 6 or 7 right there. Probably 10 teams max right now. And I hate to say it, if Baltimore can still stay consistent, they've got a slim chance of staying there. But
yeah,
it's very slim.
We can say we don't agree with it right now because Denny Grubb's not here. All right, how about let's go through some stuff with the American League. The one playoff team that I mentioned that you think will miss the playoffs?
I think it's Toronto. Even with Vlad Guerrero, what he's doing, Bichette, that whole group there, I think they're still just a little bit away, especially with the way that with what the Yankees are doing, I think they're going to keep running with it. And I think Boston's going to sneak in there just a little bit.
They got to stay healthy. I'm worried about Boston. They have a fantastic lineup. They could be dangerous in these situations. It's again, this year is interesting. It's just not a one-game wild card playoff anymore. It's the teams that play in that wild card round. It's a best of 3, and all 3 games are at one stadium. So it's the worst division winner and the best wild card team each get to host their 3-game set. So that's going to be even more to play for here come down the stretch for Major League Baseball. And do you want Boston to have 3 games at Fenway? And do you want to be that team that has to take 2 out of 3 there? It'd be really, really interesting. I'm not sure there. For me, the team I think is going to get knocked out is Minnesota. Right now, they are a half game behind Toronto as far as records go, which would be that last wild card spot. They're leading the Central right now. And I just say that because I believe the Central is getting one team and one team only. And Chicago White Sox have underperformed all year. They're starting to get things going. They've won 7 of the last 10 going into this break. They're starting to get more healthy as they had a lot of injuries early on. So I think the White Sox are going to be the team that wins the AL Central, and the Twins are going to miss out.
And you hit it a few minutes ago with my comment about Boston. I think it's Boston right now. They are 2 games out of the wild card. I think they stay in it, but it's all going to boil down to healthy. And we look Chris Sale, what he did come back for not even 2/3 of an inning and gets knocked out, and he's back on the shelf. But they've got to stay healthy. Devers has got to play, and he's got to stay healthy there too. That is a very potent lineup there in Boston, and I think they can sneak their way in. Minnesota, I kind of with you on Minnesota sliding out. I'm a little shocked of where Cleveland is right now.
They're staying in it.
They're staying in it, but I think it might boil down to this year. This Central is going to boil down to the final week of the season.
That'd be really interesting. I think the Central, while not the best teams in that division, it could be the best race coming down the stretch. Look at the National League, and a couple divisions are really close. As the Mets only have a 2.5 game lead over Atlanta, who has come screaming back after a struggle to start the year. Philadelphia, 6 games over 500, but 8.5 out in the division. In the Central, Milwaukee leads St. Louis by just half a game. And then in the NL West, we joked that was one of our, believe it or not, of the Dodgers winning that division by more than 10 games. They're at 10 games right now, which is shocking to me. They are 60-30 on the year. San Diego is 10 games over 500 and 10 games back. And then you have the Dodgers sitting there 12.5 back. You look at the wild card right now, and Atlanta has a 6-game cushion. San Diego has a 2-game cushion. And then Philadelphia currently kind of has the last wild card spot by percentage points over St. Louis. Technically, who is 0 games back, but by percentage points, Philadelphia is your last wild card team. And I'm going to be that cheesy person that just goes, okay, which team's out, which team's in? Just flip Philadelphia and St. Louis. I mean, they're basically there as far as percentage points go anyways, and I think St. Louis is the better team. So I think St. Louis is going to get in, and if St. Louis gets in and Philadelphia gets knocked out, I got all 6 teams right in my preseason predictions. So that's what I'm going for.
I mean, you're 100% on that. You look at some of these guys that St. Louis is putting out. How can you argue with Paul Goldschmidt? How can you argue with Arenado, Yespis, Gorman, Edman? Having Pujols sitting there playing like he is, I think that team is way stronger. And I didn't even say Harrison Bader. I mean, these guys are I think a lot better than what Philadelphia is, and them now dealing with the injuries. And I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a flip flop with those two.
I don't have these in our questions, but who's going to win the NL Central, St. Louis or Milwaukee?
Milwaukee has hit that skid 3-7, over the last 10. Corbin Burns, like it said a few minutes ago, a couple of those losses are and no decisions are very hazed, with a couple of their games losing in the final innings, with the bullpen giving up the lead there. I think Milwaukee holds on and they're going to end up winning it, but it will be very interesting. I don't think it's more than a game to a game and a half behind.
Is this schedule right? I'm looking at the Cardinals' schedule, and their last 6 games are against Pittsburgh. They play a home and away because everything got goofed up with the lockout and everything kind of getting pushed back. The last 6 games for St. Louis is against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think the Cardinals are going to win that division just from the way they finished that out. That is interesting. Same thing, Mets or Braves in the NL West. NL East, excuse me.
I think if Scherzer can come back and really keep those guys in there, the Mets are a great team, but I think Atlanta finds a way to keep the pedal down and, keep rolling. I mean, right now, they're plus almost 80, I think, in run differential. So, I mean, they're right there and, handling business every night. And I think it's going to come to those guys winning it. I think the Mets still make the playoffs, but the Mets will be a wild card.
All right, and don't forget Jacob deGrom comes back after this All-Star break, and that's going to help the Mets as well. I think the Mets are going to hold on, but might be the best race coming down the stretch. The AL Central will have 3 teams in it, but the Mets and Braves, those are 2 teams that either team could make the World Series.
That's what we were saying last year too. We got around this time last year, the last month and a half of this schedule, and it was the same thing. So it could go either way.
How about the biggest name that you think is going to get traded by the deadline?
As much as everybody wants to say Soto, and that's the name that's floating out there, I think it's somebody a little bit younger. And I think it's Andrew Benintendi. I think he's doing,
he gets moved.
I think he's going to get moved pretty quickly after the All-Star break is over. If not, even stuff being discussed right now. I think they're, you got a week and a half until the trade deadline hits. I think he moves sooner than later, but he could be, and I say this, sir, he could be a great guy off the bench for your Yankees being in the outfield.
Yeah, anybody but Joey Gallo. That's all I care about. Anybody but Joey Gallo. Period. I don't care. Just get Joey Gallo off the damn team.
I like Benintendi, and he's very young, and what he could do. I don't see him ever succeeding at Kauffman Stadium there in Kansas City.
Now, Benintendi, I think, is a good fit for the Yankees. He has been kind of rumored there as well. We'll see. But I do think he gets moved. But I think the biggest name is Luis Castillo. And if I can only have one of them, I want Luis Castillo on the Yankees. I know every team, it's a lot like Juan Soto. Every team that's in the hunt right now wants Luis Castillo. And I do think he gets moved. He's like Juan Soto, one of the last remaining players on his team that could get moved. I just don't see Joey Votto moving. As much as he could be a great piece for a team going down the stretch, I just don't see him ever leaving Cincinnati now. So Luis Castillo is kind of it as far as what the Reds have left to move. So, and I think he'll be the biggest piece. I think you and I both agree Juan Soto's not getting moved. So I think that's the biggest name. Just real quick, rapid fire real fast, because we're cutting out to the top of this hour. But which teams are going to reach 100 wins? Right now, as far as your win totals go, it's the Yankees right now at 64, Dodgers at 60, Houston at 59, Mets at 58, Atlanta at 56, and then it drops down to San Diego, Tampa Bay, Seattle, Milwaukee, and Toronto, Minnesota, and St. Louis are all around that 50-win mark.
Yeah, I think it's going to be your your Yankees and the Dodgers.
Calm down.
I think that's the only two that there's going to be I think the others are all going to be within 89, 90 of those couple of teams that you said. The Seattle, the Houston, the Boston. I think they're all going to be right there, 88, 89, 90.
Yeah, Yankees could play basically 500 ball and still reach 100 wins. At this point, I think they're a lock almost. I believe the Dodgers as well will hit 100 wins, and I think Houston will. And honestly, I think Houston's going to battle the Yankees for that top seed, which is going to be very important because if they meet up in the ALCS, it could end up in a Game 7, and who hosts at the end is going to be really interesting. And we'll get to power rankings in a second, but it would not surprise me in a couple weeks if we put Houston as that top team, and they're very, very good. Which teams are going to reach 100 losses by the end of the year? Right now, Washington's at 63, Oakland's at 61, and then you have the Reds, Cubs, Royals, and Tigers between 55 and 57 losses so far.
I think for me, it's got to be the bottom of my power rankings and who's been there all year, and that's Cincinnati. Oakland just cannot get anything going there. I think both of those ball clubs are 100 loss teams. And I'm also going to throw in Washington. Even though we know Soto, I feel Soto is going to stay there. They'll pick up a couple more wins. I think they barely get to the 100 losses.
To me, I agree with two of the three. I think Washington and Oakland hit 100 losses. I think Cincinnati will come just short of that mark. They'll be in the 90s for sure, but over 95 probably, but not to 100. And right now, there are 5 teams in the AL East that are at 500 or better. How many of them finish at 500 or better by the end of the year?
I think the Yankees by far, and then it just goes back to
God. Could you imagine the Yankees not finishing over 500 with what they're at right now?
To be just fall out,
They have to win 18 more games. The rest
exactly. I think the team that I picked to fall out of the playoffs doesn't make it, and that's Toronto. I think they fall out, and Baltimore falls out. So give me Tampa Bay, give me Boston, along with the Yankees.
Yeah, I'm Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays, but I could see the Red Sox, and the Orioles are sticking around more than I thought they were going to. And you know what? We got to give them credit for being there. Real quick, through our power rankings, our top 5 have not changed.
Nope.
The orders have changed, but it's still Yankees, Dodgers, Astros, Mets, Braves, in whatever order that you want. I teased you the other day that the Mariners are close to that top 5, but right now you cannot. Your top 3 are almost locked right now between Yankees, Dodgers, and Astros. I think the Yankees still technically are locked at that one spot, but the Dodgers are sniffing on their heels, and the Astros are right there as well. And then it's just which team you like better between the Mets and the Braves, which one's 4 and 5. The Mets did take 2 out of 3 from Atlanta last week, and so that's why I gave them the 4 spot. And do we have the same 3 bottom teams?
No, you have a new.
Oh, I have the Cubs.
You have the Cubbies.
It just which team sucks the most? I think they've won 1 game in the last 10. So I have Cubs, Athletics, Nationals. You have Reds, Nationals, and Athletics. Who's your player of the week?
For me, I got to go with the guy that just was on fire. Watched him play last Monday on TV, and it is my NL MVP right now, front runner right now, and that's Freddie Freeman. Went 12 of 19, batted .632 last week, 5 runs, 5 RBIs, struck out only once out of all of his at bats. One time, and an OPS of 1.8, and just nuts. But you can't argue with who you took either.
No, I think Freddie Freeman ended up having the best week, but the story of Matt Carpenter is absolutely insane. As a Yankee fan, I still don't believe it. And the fact that he is just now starting to get regular playing time because Aaron Boone went, all right, fine, we'll find a place. He played outfield for the first time in years for the Yankees just to try to get him at bats. He's played first base. He's been the DH. They'll throw him anywhere just to get his bat in the lineup. He went 6 for 15 this week, 2 doubles, 5 home runs, had 12 RBIs, including a 7 RBI day where he hit 2 3-run bombs against Boston. That Yankees short porch and right has been a big friend to him, even though most of his home runs have easily cleared that right field fence. Mm-hmm. He has been just the coolest story. And as Richie and I were talking about the other day, could you imagine if they just threw him in the home run derby the way he has been hitting bombs right now? That would have been a cool story. He didn't deserve it with only being there for a portion of the season, but for a guy that was sitting on his lazy boy when the season started, and every team passed on him. He was a minor leaguer for Detroit and left there. Or not Detroit, but for Texas. Just cool story. Sorry, but again, because of the how I almost said player shortage, but the lockout.
Mhm.
But because of the lockout, things got messed up. So we do have games on Thursday, including a doubleheader between the Yankees and the Astros. Screw you, Yankees. Not only do you get one less day off, but you have to play a doubleheader, and it's against the Astros of all goddamn teams. Thanks,
Hey,
Major League Baseball.
hey, no, I like that. I love that. I hope
You're rooting for the Yankees.
I really am pulling for your Yankees on Thursday.
But
And I hate to say it,
I
because they're going to go from there to East Coast and then jump on their plane and fly all the way back to Seattle to take on the Mariners on Friday and Saturday. I'm a Yankee fan. I hope you beat the tar out of them.
I hope that'll be really fun, but that is not my series to watch. My series to watch is the Guardians and the White Sox. Again, that AL Central to me is going to be very, very interesting. So look out there. And also, if Denny Grubb is watching, it's the Yankees and Orioles again. It's time to knock you bums down below 500. Sorry.
For me, it has to be, does Seattle get their 15th and 16th and 17th win? It is coming against Houston in Seattle, so it'll be interesting. So that is my series to watch after hopefully your Yankees can beat up on the Astros.
Fingers crossed. It's fun that I'm making you root for the Yankees. It's great.
God, I think I've pulled more for the Yankees this year than I have in a long time.
It's been an interesting year. What can we say?
Yeah.
All right, sir. Hit me up. Part 2.
All right.
Who am I? Catch us up with the nonsense crap that you gave us the first round. And
all
then
right.
Hit me up with the other.
I was born in Arkansas and started playing baseball and football by the age of 10.
Bill Clinton.
In high school, I played football, basketball, baseball, and track, and I was a standout quarterback and free safety. It's funny you just said that because I was received an all-state honors. That was his senior year. Here's your next set of clues.
Okay.
In 1992, I made the U.S. Junior Olympic team, but could not afford the $500 fee. So I asked for help from Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, in which he accepted. How funny is it you said
awesome.
that? I made my major league debut on August 22nd, 1997, just 1 year before Denise and I got married, exactly to the date. So had to throw that in there. And then let's see what other one I'm going to give you. Okay, here you go. I played for 3 Major League Baseball teams. 1 team I played for twice. That's all you get right now.
So a debut in 97 baseball player. That's all I got. Everything else is nonsense.
How funny you said Bill Clinton, and that was part of one of the clues.
All right, we had Robert Taylor messaging earlier. I don't know who's all watching live, but it is now time for our sports-related draft. And last week we didn't do it, and it's not topical now because it's no longer our 90th episode. So I'll use that idea later on. But we have moved on to the best home run derby home run derby performances. That's the word. I can't English. So I picked topic. You get the first pick.
Well, for me, I have to be. I'm going to go with Josh Hamilton. What he did, hitting 28 home runs in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium after the year that he had and all of the drama that he did in 2008. He hit 1 home run that almost left Yankee Stadium. And it was kind of that feel-good story in 2008 and 2007, what he was dealing with. And so I'm going to go with pull on the heartstrings a little bit. Give me Josh Hamilton for the first pick.
There were a lot of Yankee fans that wanted him in New York after that moment. He didn't win the tournament. He didn't win the Derby that year, but that first round especially was ridiculous. That was was that still back when it was 10 outs?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep. So that, a different format, but still, broke the record for that. Just absolutely insane. For me, I'm going to go with somebody who also did not win, but ended up breaking Josh Hamilton's record. And he hit 29 home runs in his year. And that is Vlad Guerrero back in 2019. He hits 29 home runs in the first round. Then he ties Jock Peterson 29-29 in the second round. They both crush 8 more home runs in their minute. And then during the 3 swing off or whatever, Vlad Guerrero finally wins. He ends up hitting 69 home runs in the first 2 rounds. This was a young player who had only hit 7 or 8 before the All-Star break, was not seen as this crusher of baseballs, and put on an absolute show. Out of those 69 home runs, none of them were cheapos by any means. Completely dominated. And again, he does wear out, and he loses to Pete Alonso in the finals. But those first 2 rounds were insane.
Yeah, and I did forget the main one that I thought was probably the coolest with the Josh Hamilton one was his guy that was pitching to him was his 71-year-old childhood coach that was throwing basically batting practice balls to him. So I forgot all about that little story of that one. So round 2 for me, I'm going Homer. I have to, and it wasn't even the year that he won, but to see Ken Griffey Jr. hit a ball off of the warehouse, all the way across Camden Yards, out of Camden Yards, goes across Utah Street and hits the warehouse, and still has the nameplate, everything. He is still the only guy to hit a ball out of Camden Yards that has hit the warehouse in home run derby, in playoffs, postseason, regular season, the only guy to do that. And so for me, I have to go with, and it wasn't even a winning year for Ken Griffey, but I'm going to go 1993 home run derby.
Yeah, you took a picture of that plaque, right?
I did.
Yeah.
And it's still sitting there when I went back there in 2018. And to see all of those placards laying down on the ground, and then to see the one up on the wall from where he hit the building.
A very, very cool moment. Let's pick a winner. It's time for us to pick somebody that actually won their home run derby, right? And I'm going to pick Giancarlo Stanton. And that's not a homer pick because he was a Marlin when he did this. Back in 2016, he runs away with it at 61 home runs on the way to the title. But this is finally when StatCast starts coming out, right? So the stats for his win are ridiculous. I'll just give you an idea. Out of the 20 hardest hit home runs in that home run derby, how many of them were Stanton's?
That I couldn't probably tell you.
All 20. He had the 20 hardest hit balls in that entire home run derby. He had the 10 longest home runs. He had 18 of the 19 longest home runs, and he averaged 446 feet per home run. And this wasn't in Colorado. This was in San Diego. This was at Petco Park, where everyone was like, oh, this is going to be horrible for the home run derby. He made that look like a minor league or a little league field. Like, Stanton's performance was ridiculous that year, and that is why he is my second round pick. All right, hit me with your last one.
My last one, and as much as I hate talking about that generation, and we talk about the asterisk and the Barry Bonds, the Alex Rodriguez, and we were all enthralled in '98 with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and what they were doing and how they did it. And so in '99, when Mark McGwire comes to Boston, and he doesn't win either, but he hits 13 big home runs in that first round. That's when it was still 10 outs. But he hit some shots over that green monster. Now that they're seeding and all that, not many get over that monster anymore. But for him to hit the moon shots out on what they were calling Lansdowne Street, and they were talking about hitting. He could probably have hit those out onto the Massachusetts Turnpike. He just hit some monster shots, and in a lot of things that were going on in 97 with the home run chase and all that. He was still a very beloved person, and what he was doing and what he could do was just crazy and powerful for him to hit a ball out off the monster and gone. It was just crazy to think about.
The one thing that I remember from that home home run derby is Chris Berman was the play-by-play guy.
Mm-hmm.
And him doing the home run derby was amazing. I miss Chris Berman doing the home run derby. He brought the energy to it that I think is missing right now. No disrespect to the people doing the home run derbies now, but Chris Berman with all of his weird home run calls and nicknames, and I think he always made it really special. And that's what I remember from the Mark McGwire one is just Chris Berman and all his over the top calls. For me, I will go homer for my last pick, and that's Aaron Judge as a rookie in 2017 down there at Marlin Park. I believe Stanton was in this one, and everyone was expecting a Judge Stanton finals, and then Stanton doesn't make it to the finals, but I'm not 100% remembering that correctly. But this is where the new format kind of hurts Judge a little bit, because when you look at it, Judge beat Justin Bohr 23-22, but he still had all of his bonus time left. Then he beats Jacoby Bellinger 13-12. Again, he only hit 13 home runs. Well, he still had a minute left on his clock, on top of the bonus time still available. And then he beats Miguel Sano in the finals 11-10 with a minute 53 left on his clock plus bonus time. There was only one player in that home run derby that hit a ball over 500 feet. That was Aaron Judge. He did it 4 times. Again, as a rookie in 2017. Just I am here to the world performance by a guy that ended up with 52 home runs that year. So ridiculous performance by Aaron Judge. Yep. Oh yeah. And he won it too.
Yeah. And with all of our picks in there, we didn't even add in the idea of the 3 years Ken Griffey won, especially in Coors Field. We didn't even talk about Bryce Harper when Bryce Harper won and what he brought to his hometown crowd. There's a lot of moments.
Yeah, Pete Alonso had some fantastic performances as well. How about Todd Frazier in 2015, where he was just thought of as just a throw-in dude?
Well, I mean, and even you look at why am I drawing a blank? Bobby Abreu. He had 40 plus home runs in his derby win. I mean, there's so many moments. It's hard to narrow down, but to think this has only been happening since what, 1995 when the home run derby started.
Somewhere in there. There are a lot of different iterations.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's where we're at. That's who we got. I will put up a picture really quick of those guys and give you a quick remembrance of who they were. And so I'm taking Josh Hamilton in 2008, Ken Griffey 1993, and Mark McGwire in 1999. And you, sir, are taking Vlad Guerrero in 2018, Giancarlo Stanton 2016. Is that right? And then Aaron Judge, his rookie year in 2017. So those are the best performances that we came up with. So let us know who you.
Yeah, I think this will have to be a week that we get votes on the Facebook page. Would be my guess. Which, by the way, we're 5 away from 600. 5 followers away from 600. Can we get this before school starts, please?
Yeah,
so I can recover from this crazy training session.
Well, with you saying that, and I'm just gonna bring this up here really quick. With us only being 5 away, I don't know if you saw my post from earlier that Austin Arnett has announced that the next MMA fight is happening. It's going to be the Clearwater Comeback is on November 5th. So those boys are getting ready to start really training up. So we need to hit it. We need to hit that 600 before
they really get into full go mode. When they get into fight mode, we're not doing this. When they are in all focus mode, no, thank you. I want them in goofy mode, and even that will hurt a lot.
Very much so.
A lot. Let's go ahead and get started on our NFL offseason. They're not really rankings right now, but our breakout player for each AFC team. You went through the NFC last week,
Now, I want to give you a chance. Was there
Yeah.
anybody on your list? I mean, I announced all of your guys's.
Mhm.
Was there any on your list that you wanted to hit on any more than me just saying a name and what
No,
I thought you were thinking?
no, they're all going to be wrong anyway, so I don't want to bury myself in the sand anymore. But we'll see what we could do here in the AFC. We'll go through a couple divisions and we'll go back to the who am I, and then we'll finish things off. Let's start with the AFC West, and I'm a little sad that Robert has taken off. See if he agrees with us. Actually, let's go AFC South. Let me message Robert, see if I can get him back in here. So if he agrees or not. Let's start with the AFC South and the Houston Texans. And to me, it was a no-brainer. To me, because I like this guy a lot more than I think a lot of other people do, but that's Davis Mills. Everyone was thinking the Texans needed to go out and draft a quarterback. No, I think they have a good quarterback right now, and Davis Mills just started 11 games, threw for 2,600 yards on a horrible Houston team, but I think they can build around Davis Mills. Excuse me, sacked 31 times on the year, 16 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Again, only the 11 starts. I think you give him a full season and a full offseason as the starter. He's not going to go out there and be an MVP candidate by any means, but he's going to be one of those middle of the pack competent starters, and that's all you need at Houston right now.
Yeah, that's a good choice. But with the drama that has still been going on there, I think there's going to be a lot of eyes that are going to be on him. So I'm going to go with the running back there. I'm going to go with Marlon Mack. I mean, he's on a new team this year. He's not the guy from Indianapolis. He's coming in. Last year does play injury prone. 28 touches, 101 yards. But I think the look of a new team for him is huge, and I think that's going to benefit the Texans even more than Davis Mills.
That's fair. How about your Indianapolis player?
My Indianapolis player, it's going to be the rookie. As much as I want to say it, and dude, I loved what Cincinnati did. I'm a huge proponent of what they can accomplish there. And so I'm going to go with Alec Pierce. I mean, he's going to be across the way from Michael Pittman. I think that Matt Ryan will meet up with him quite easily and be able to hit some of those shots. And a new face, it's not the same, feeling T.Y. Hilton kind of Colts that we've been seeing in the past. I think this is going to be a great 1-2 combination between Pierce and Ryan.
My question though is, can a rookie really be a breakout player?
I would think so. I mean, they've got to put up numbers, for what they have done in the past. I mean, he high second round draft pick. I think he is more than capable of doing, playing well. And I think having that veteran Matt Ryan thrown to him is going to be huge.
And then I'm going to butcher this name. I apologize. Is it Kwity Paye? Is that how you say the defensive end's name for Indianapolis Colts?
That I do not know.
That is true. That is not the true number one wide receiver for the Colts. I do agree with Robert Taylor, but I believe it's Paye is how you say his last name. He's just a second year. He had 4 sacks last year, just 28 tackles. I think if the Colts are going to take that step forward and battle Tennessee for that division title, that their defense is going to have to take another step forward, and Paye, I think, is a big proponent of that. So that'll be my breakout player for the Colts. How about the Jacksonville Jaguars? I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence. I got on a lot of people because everyone's like, oh, Jacksonville's going to take a big step forward, but the Jets aren't. It's like Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson both sucked last year, and everyone just is in it with Trevor Lawrence. But I'm going to agree on this point. There's no more Urban Meyer. Trevor Lawrence is without the headache of what Urban Meyer brought. Now he can actually have a normal offseason and maybe learn an actual offense instead of whatever the hell Urban Meyer was throwing out there. He did have only just 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. It's a rookie year. You're not going to read too much into a quarterback that throws a lot of interceptions. We'll get to more of those in a little bit, but I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a big step forward. And Robert Taylor agrees with me, which is awkward. So maybe I need to change my pick.
I'm going to go with the running back again. I feel bad for the guy, but I'm going with ETN. I mean, he didn't get to play any at all. I think there is a lot of hype around him to play well, especially in Jacksonville, and I think he can do it. The new coaching staff, Peterson, is going to have the same effect on him as he did Trevor Lawrence is with Trevor Lawrence. So I'm excited to see those two players play in Jacksonville. We keep talking about Jacksonville. You know, we go back about 4 or 5 years ago. That you and I both had them as being that sleeper team that was taking the next step, and you know they've had a couple of hiccups over the last couple of years. But I think this might be a year that they take a step forward. They won't be as good as Tennessee. I don't think they'll be as good as Tennessee.
And I don't think Tennessee's is going to be as good as Tennessee usually is.
And that could boil down to maybe this is going to be the most competitive out of the AFC. It's hard to
be a lot of middle of the pack teams, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and then Houston, which I don't think Houston's there yet. How about the Tennessee? Speaking of Tennessee, let's go to them. And I'm going to go with their cornerback, Christian Fulton. Dealt with a bunch of injuries the last 2 years. Only played 19 games. Just had the 3 interceptions. I think if he can stay healthy, he could be a great shutdown corner for them. So I think he's going to have a breakout season.
Yeah, and you're going to get me on this one again, but I'm going to go with the rookie. I took a lot of rookies in this group on the AFC side, but I like what the Arkansas wide receiver Treylon Burks will bring to the table. You know, Robert Woods will be getting the coverage. Tannehill was going to want to throw to him all the time, and I'm hoping that that's going to open up Burks, and he should have a decent year. Do I think he has? I think he has more than 600 yards receiving. I think he's going to be about an 800-yard receiver, but he could be that guy that takes the pressure off Woods and gets Woods a little bit more touches.
All right, let's go to the AFC West now that Robert Taylor is hanging out. Let's get to the Denver Broncos. And to me, I thought it was an easy one. You went a different direction, which opened it for me. But Jerry Jeudy. He was supposed to be this big wide receiver for Denver, had 52 catches for just under 900 yards his rookie season. Last year it was non-existent. Under 40 catches, under 500 yards, 0 touchdowns. But now he gets Russell Wilson throwing to him instead of Drew Lock. And I think he could be a great possession receiver for Denver.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. I think it's the guy right behind Jeudy, and that's going to be Kendall Hinton. Hinton did get a lot of touches this last year. Only comes down with 175 yards, but I think he could be that number 3 receiver there with Jeudy and with that group. Is Russell going to what they call cook? We'll see. But you know, you got Cortland Sutton there, Jerry Jeudy. I think Hinton could be that 3rd receiver. You know, right now you've got Tim Patrick there, but I don't see him being the guy that Russell wants to throw to. And I think this is going to be a year that Hinton comes up and gets probably 600 yards.
Let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs. Robert Taylor just messaged me saying his breakout player for his team is Nick Bolton with MVS. Mr. Valdez-Scantling is his 2nd pick. Who do you got?
For Kansas City, it's got to be CEH. As much as he didn't get to play last year,
I've given up on him.
I think this might be the year that he can pull it out there. You know, you got Ronald Jones behind him, but it'll be interesting, I think, where this team goes with no Hill. Yeah, okay.
I don't like how much Robert Taylor and I have agreed.
That's a little rough, but I think CEH has a little bit better year than he did last year.
Well, for me, Tyreek Hill's gone. So who's that speed demon that is going to take his place? It's Mecole Hardman. I think he has a lot of talent. He kind of got hidden behind Tyreek Hill. He made some fantastic plays for Kansas City over the last couple of years. Almost had 60 catches last year for almost 700 yards, just the 2 touchdowns. His receptions and yards have gone up, and every year he's been in the league, his touchdowns have gone down. But I think those will start to go up as well. No Tyreek Hill. You're going to have that speedster be that top guy. And I think Mecole Hardman's going to be it. I know Robert does think that MVS is going to be that speed demon replacement, but Hardman knows the system. And I think he is going to take a big step forward. I think that 1-2 punch of MVS and Hardman is going to be better than a lot of us are thinking. Like anyone out there that really thinks Patrick Mahomes is going to have this horrible down year just because Tyreek Hill is gone, like as much as I like to flip Robert Taylor crap, it's not if he has a down year and he throws a lot of interceptions, or he did last year, and that's just, and I think he gets a little too cutesy with his plays. But if he has a down year, it's not going to be because Tyreek Hill is gone. He has fantastic weapons still around him. You get a couple speedsters in there with Hardman and MVS. You get Kelsey underneath. You got some decent running backs as well. Kansas City's not going anywhere anytime soon. Let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders, and this one was a little bit more difficult. We both went the same position again. We did this a lot. But I went to Vine Diablo. He was drafted last year, now in his second year. Just only had 37 catches in his rookie season. I think he takes a big step forward, and it's going to be a name that we hear a lot in 2022.
Yeah, you went with the Sam linebacker. I'm going to go with the middle linebacker, and I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown. I think even though he did have 55 tackles last year with the Titans, I think he comes in and fills a void there in the Raiders defense in the middle of that defensive line. And I see him getting a couple more sacks this year and playing a little bit more pressure defense from the middle. So give me Mr. Brown.
All right, last team in the AFC West is the Los Angeles Chargers. And again, we went the same position. Both went cornerback, and
what's funny is I did mine before you did. That's what's odd.
Well, the sad thing is this was the only team where I kept looking, and the only one I could come up with anywhere was Samuel. Like I was looking up at different sites just to give me any other options, period, that I wasn't thinking of. And every single website I went to try to give me any other ideas that I hadn't thought of, all said Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah, I think he's going to be that guy there. You know, he had 43 tackles total, 33 solos, just 2 INTs. I think that he is going to be that guy, especially with JC Jackson coming in, being the left side, right side guy. It's going to be interesting how this team works together. And I think Asante is going to take some pressure off of Jackson.
And for me, when I started looking at stats and trying to come up with anyone else, because no other website wanted to help me because they all agreed with each other, I went to another cornerback who, with Asante having a great year that we all believe he's going to be over there on the other side. Nasir Adderley, who is in his last year of his rookie contract, just has the 1 interception through the 3 years, but he had 94 tackles last year. And he's yet to really play a full season. So I think that's a great 1-2 punch as far as cornerbacks go, especially in a league that you're playing a lot of tough offenses. And I think Adderley is going to take a big step forward.
Yeah, and Robert Taylor makes a great point there. He thinks Jackson's going to take a step back, not being in the Belichick defensive scheme. But, I mean, it's going to be a totally different spot for him to come in and play and be that lockdown corner for the Chargers. So I think it's going to be a great combination with him, Jackson, and Asante Samuels there.
All right, we still have the AFC North and AFC East to go, but for right now it is round 3 of Who Am I? Is right now we know it's a baseball player that debuted in 97.
Yep, I'm going to give you that. That Bill Clinton helped him out, Governor Bill Clinton. Last I told you that he played for 3 Major League Baseball teams. 1 team he played twice for.
Okay.
I batted a career 277. I had 2,400 hits, 353 home runs, and almost 1,400 RBIs while stealing 195 bases. My namesake is currently playing for the Los Angeles Angels AA Rocket City Trash Pandas.
So he's not old enough quite yet to have a major leaguer as a kid, but he's on his way. That's a good hint. But I'm not quite there yet.
All right.
Did you say those one more time?
The hints again?
Yeah.
Okay. I batted 277. I had 2,452 hits, 353 home runs, 1,400 RBIs, and stole 195 bags. I played for 3 Major League Baseball teams, 1 team twice, and my namesake is currently playing for the Los Angeles Anaheim Angels Double-A team, the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know yet.
We'll move on. Well, let's finish up with the breakout players. We want to go. Do you want to go AFC North or AFC East, sir?
Let's go North.
Okay.
Let's finish with the best division. That's not true at all.
That is far from
true. Far from true. Let's start with your team, though.
Okay.
Baltimore Ravens. Do you want me to give you the actual player, or do you want to go first because it's your team?
I'm going to let you go first. I think both of these people are going to be huge. Mine's just going to be a little bit bigger.
Yours might not even start the year. All right. Yours is worried about even starting the season. Somebody at some point is going to have to catch a ball in Baltimore. I know they don't throw the ball, but Rashad Bateman is my breakout player. How about 46 catches on 68 targets in just the 12 games? He only started 4 of them last year. And 29 of his 46 catches went for a first down last year. I think he's getting the respect from his quarterback, Lamar Jackson, and he's going to get more and more of a role. It cannot all go to Mark Andrews.
And that's the biggest thing, is that it's got to balance itself out. I see Bateman taking a bigger step now that Hollywood's not there. I think Bateman is an excellent. That was the other name next to mine. But for us last year, we lost so many running backs. I'm taking JK. I mean, give me a guy from Ohio State. As much as I hate Ohio State, I think that he has a season. I mean, he touched the ball in 2020 just 134 times in those few games that he played. 805 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns. Imagine him having a full season. I think that's the thing. They've got to keep him healthy. They went out and found some line help, offensive line. I think this is a year that they take a little bit more pressure off of Lamar Jackson and hopefully keep that running game going.
Yeah, hopefully he starts the season healthy. I know I had read a report the other day that he was worried about being able to be ready by week 1. Very good talent in J.K. Dobbins. So I'm as much as I review about your team, because that's what we like to do on this show. I do like J.K. Dobbins, and I hope he has a healthy season. Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals, your AFC defending champions. As much as I hate that my son got to see his team in the Super Bowl before I got to see mine, and I have been around far longer than him. For me, with the Bengals, they lose C.J. Uzomah to my New York Jets, and I think they replaced him with an even better talent. I mean, he hasn't had that amazing year yet, but how about Hayden Hurst? He's been on 3 different teams now. Was it Baltimore first? I know it was Atlanta the last couple years. It was Baltimore to start, then Atlanta. Hasn't really had that breakout year that we've all expected. You put him there with Joe Burrow with the weapons around them, and you have him underneath. I think he's going to have a fantastic year.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst, played behind a couple of great other tight ends there in Baltimore. And so Baltimore had to move on from him. They couldn't keep paying 3 tight ends to be there. So I'm excited to see what he does in Cincinnati. I think he's a good one. For me, and I think this kid gets the start here by week 4, is give me the rookie from Michigan, Daxton Hill, or Dax Hill, however you want to, whatever you want to call him. I think he takes Eli Apple's spot in that defensive backfield sooner rather than later.
Eli Apple's no good.
That's what I'm thinking. Yep. I think it's sooner than later.
Let's go to the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in his second year. Only played 14 games last year, so 76 tackles, forced 2 fumbles. I think he becomes a household name this year. If Cleveland's going to be a contender, and if Watson's going to be out for whatever many games, and they're going to have Jacoby Brissett, it's going to rely on the defense. And I think in the middle of it is going to be Owusu right here, and I think he's going to have a great year.
I agree with that, but I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball, and it's going to be that check down by Brissett. But give me David Njoku. I think he takes a huge step forward. You know, he only had 475 yards, 4 touchdowns. Look for him to be double that number in both touchdowns and in yards this year, being that check down guy for Brissett.
Given a lot of tight end love here in the AFC North. Let's continue that with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pat Freiermuth, I think, is going to end up this season as a top 5 tight end. If you go by fantasy numbers, whatever. I'm not playing fantasy football this year. I'm focusing on school. But if you're playing fantasy football, wait for Pat Freiermuth. Take him. He had 60 catches on 79 targets last year for just 497 yards, but he had 7 touchdowns, which is great. And now he's going to have either Trubisky or Kenny Pickett as his quarterback. And what do those horrible quarterbacks like to do? They like to check down to a tight end. I think Freiermuth is going to have a fantastic season for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and whether even it's Mason Rudolph that makes a little bit of noise in that. I don't think that those 3 quarterbacks are set in stone yet in Pittsburgh. I could be wrong, but I think it's still a 3-way tie there. But I think it's going to be the passing game, and as much as I keep talking about rookies, I'm excited to watch George Pickens this year from Georgia. He was one of the major targets there for Fromm down there in Georgia. I think he could be that next spot. I don't want to say he's the next Hines Ward for Pittsburgh, but I think he's going to make a splash for the Steelers there at the new Amerisher Stadium.
Let's go to the AFC East, our last division here. And we'll start with the Buffalo Bills, who, let's face it, they're winning the AFC East. And I'm going to go with the guy that really kind of broke out in the playoffs. But I think he's going to continue that in the regular season. He's not going to do what he did against Kansas City, where he had 8 catches for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's not going to have that much success. But Gabriel Davis is going to be locked in as the number 2 wide receiver in Buffalo behind Stephon Diggs. He only had 35 catches each of the last 2 years. He's going to have way more than that this year on an offense that is really going to rely on the air game. And I think Davis is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, because what you've got Jamison Crowder there, Tavon Austin in that lineup. I think that's a good spot there too. Give me the backup, and I'm going to take a backup behind Devin Singletary, and that is the rookie James Cook, another out of Georgia kid. You know, as Georgia got a lot of love getting drafted, a lot of players out this past year. I think he touches the ball quite frequently and gets over 500 yards rushing.
Let's go to the Miami Dolphins. I'm taking safety Javon Holland. Had a couple of interceptions last year, nearly 70 tackles, 2.5 sacks. I'm going to say he has over 5 sacks this year. Is Miami, who wants to believe that they are a playoff contender and can battle with Buffalo, is really going to need their defense to step up. I know a lot of people think Tua is going to take that step forward, but the defense is going to have to be a big role of it. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on other teams and blitz a lot more, and that's where Javon Holland is going to have a great year.
Yeah, if they can have that offensive line to protect the delay blitz and hand it off, I think it's handed it off to Chase Edmonds. I think a new spot for him, not being in Arizona. You've got Tua there. You've got Tyreek Hill, some guys that Chase can play behind. You know, I think he's good. I mean, almost 600 yards. Where he was down, was touchdowns. I think he could be easily with Tyreek being there, also with Waddell being there. I think he could be a 6 touchdown plus guy, 6-7 touchdowns for the year, and be totally different in use there in Miami than he was in Arizona.
Then we go to the New England Patriots, and there's one rule when it comes to the New England Patriots, especially if you play fantasy football. You never rely on a running back, sir.
I know it's running back by committee, but I think that Damian Harris takes that step forward. You look at the depth there. You've got Ramondre Stevenson. You have James White. You have Pierre Strong Jr. It's going to be a running back by committee, but I think Damian Harris gets a little bit more yardage than what he did last year. And he breaks over the 1,000-yard mark this year. He had 950, but I think he gets over 1,000 this year.
Yeah, I can't take a running back, especially with somebody that almost had 1,000 yards already last year. You just cannot trust any of them. I'm going to go safety Kyle Duggar. He had 4 interceptions last year, 92 tackles. It's going to be tough to do even better, but I think he breaks the triple-digit mark in the tackles, gets a few more interceptions on a New England team that really, really needs it. I think they're going to have a struggle bus kind of a year. I'm not quite ready to predict that the Jets will finish ahead of them because I still don't believe it myself. But if there's one team that the Jets might be able to beat in this division, it's going to be the Patriots, because I don't think that they're going to have that much success there as well. And speaking of the Jets, your future at some point in the history of the world, Super Bowl champions, not this year, most likely not next year or the year after, but at some point in all of time, the Jets will sometime win another Super Bowl, you would think. Zach Wilson. The Jets went all out on trying to help him. They went out and got 3 tight ends to try to help. They went out and got Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore, who I think is going to have a better year this year than his rookie year, is just going to improve. I think they've done everything they can over the last 2 years to make things better for Zach Wilson. Struggled early on, looked much better in the second half of the year. All of this weird offseason stuff aside, which I know you're laughing about right now. But you know what? As I said at the Tribune yesterday, the previous quarterback for the Jets saw ghosts. Zach Wilson saw something much better. I'm picking Zach Wilson to take a big step forward this year.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to go that way with him.
No, I find it so stupid.
I didn't know if you were going to go with Zach Wilson. The other one, like I said, I dove into the rookies, and you were high on the sauce. I left the sauce there for you. I think
I don't count rookies as breakouts.
I like what this your defensive backfield looks like. I think with the sauce being there, I'm going to look over to the other side, DJ Reed, and he had a lot of tackles, but I think he will step up on the interception side of it.
Especially if he gets put on the backside. Mm-hmm. If you have Gardner against the number 1, you get Reed against the number 2. A lot of Seahawks fans that I've talked to are really sad that he's gone, which makes me feel good. I like your pick.
I think it's going to be your team's making smart moves. Saleh is making some smart decisions. I like what Reed can do for that backfield with Gardner.
So I need your help because I don't really buy jerseys very often. I'm not one that really wears a lot of sports jerseys. But Haley and I have decided we're going to wear jerseys to the football game when we go to the Jets Packers at Lambeau. What jersey do I go with? There's a lot of options. You can go with Zach Wilson. You can go with Garrett Wilson. You can go with Michael Carter. You can go with the sauce.
You can get you a Joe Flacco jersey.
Flacco. I can go Joe Flacco. I'm not going Joe Flacco, but you could. But then the other one is like the Jets have the green jersey that, it would fit in with Green Bay, whatever, but they have that nice black one too. I don't know if I want to go with the black. We'll see. So there's a lot of decisions I have to make before that big football game where the Jets will lose by 32.
I'm going to tell you who I would go with. Most all of my jerseys are defensive jerseys. I'm going to tell you 2 numbers. I know he's going to have a good year this year. I think he's finally getting out of the injury
Mosley.
57. Give him Mosley, the defensive captain. I think he's going to be that guy.
Hey, a fully healthy CJ Mosley, Carl Lawson coming back. He didn't even play for the Jets. And I'm trying my best not to get overhyped about the Jets right now.
Yep.
5-6 wins. 5-6 wins is what I need to just stay focused on because that schedule is brutal. But man, they've done a lot of good things. All right. We already did the Who Am I. I almost went back to Who Am I part 3. Let's just do it. Let's finish off Who Am I. Let's do the part 4, and then we'll finish off the show with the sports that don't get enough airtime.
All right, so we'll go one more time with all the Who Am I's. We'll start at the very beginning. We'll go through all of it.
Let's skip the first section. Nobody cares that they were in Arkansas.
All right, I was on the Olympic gold team. I made Major League debut in August of 97.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a couple new ones. I was a 5-time All-Star. I was a 9-time Gold Glove, winning 7 consecutive. I was a 2-time Silver Slugger winner. I batted .277, had 353 home runs. I played for 3 Major League Baseball teams, 1 team twice. I played for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I played for the Detroit Tigers. I have a namesake.
Oh, you're not going to tell me the third team?
Oh, would you like me to tell you the third team?
Because I have an idea.
The Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, okay. I think I got it.
Okay. And my namesake...
The Gold Glove thing helped.
Okay. I figured it was. Who am I?
It's Torrey Hunter.
You are exactly right, Torrey Hunter.
When you told me Angels and Tigers, you almost threw me completely off the hunt. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
All right.
I did easy.
He has a kid in Double-A.
Yeah, he is not batting all that well. I think when I looked at him, he was batting like 240 or 250.
Torrey Hunter was fantastic. And I was trying to think of really good players that debuted late 90s. And when you said that many Gold Gloves, that's the name I went to. He was the one that had that ridiculous catch on Barry Bonds in the All-Star game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. The one that really shocked me, what you said, was how odd is I said Arkansas, and the first thing out of your mouth was Bill Clinton, and I'm like, does he know something that I didn't know?
Nothing. I never know anything. I got lucky to get there. I didn't need Denny. I could have used Denny Grubb's help. He probably got it way before I did. But all right, still perfect through Who Am I's, usually with some help. Usually with the help. But I'm still perfect. Let's move on to the sports that do not get enough airtime. We'll finish out this show, episode number 91. And let's start with Aussie Rules, where all of a sudden Hawthorns won, 2 in a row, which is like a ridiculous winning streak for them. They beat West Coast 102-77. The crazier thing about that game, Hawthorn was losing after the first quarter, and they came back to win. Western defeated St. Kilda 84-56. North Melbourne, I wish Harry was around. They snapped their 14-game losing streak.
Finally.
With a win against Richmond 92-88. Geelong holds on to that top spot, beating Carlton 85-55. Melbourne stays right with them with a win over Port Adelaide 83-69. And Sydney defeating Fremantle 82-65. So we're getting close. We got 5 weeks left, I think, of the regular season. 5 or 6 weeks, I think. I can't remember if they go 22 or 23 now. But they're getting there. It's getting near the end of the regular season, and there's some great battles right now as far as playoff spots. Again, if you've never watched Aussie Rules football and you're not sick of us talking about it yet, and you've been interested, the top 4 all face each other in the first round. The bottom or the next 4 face each other in the first round, and then the brackets go in different ways. If you're in that 5 through 8 range, if you lose that first round, you're out. The top 4, you can lose that first round and still work your way back. It kind of gives you that extra benefit of finishing in the top 4. So with that being said, there's so many battles of as far as who might make that top 4. It's going to be really interesting down the stretch.
There is 5 weeks left. They have 23 weeks, so we are starting week 19. So, and looking at the top 7 teams, there could be a big push any direction with any of those teams. So, again, I'm like Randy. If you have not watched this, set your DVR, watch a game, and you will be blown away with the talent of some of these athletes.
Oh, yeah. There's always some ridiculous hits, some great kicks, some ridiculous plays. It's a very athletic sport, and it's a lot of fun. Like you said, 3 through 7 right now, just 4 points apart. 4 points is a win, so they're just basically 1 win separates 3rd through 7th right now, and a lot of close races. My Hawthorn Hawks are out of it. They're 3 games out. Just trying to finish out the stretch. It'd be nice to see them win a few to finish off the year. Maybe even finish 500 if they could win out. It's not happening, but they could get a win this week as they do get North Melbourne, who has snapped their losing streak already. So now they're time for a letdown game. That game not on TV, but at a decent time, 8:45 p.m. local time on Friday. Your TV games are Richmond versus Fremantle at 2:50 a.m. on Friday on FS2. All of these are FS2. And then Saturday at 2:10 a.m., It's Brisbane and Gold Coast. Western and Melbourne is at 2:25. That's also on FS2, even though they're 15 minutes apart.
No, I think it's Brisbane that's on FS1.
Okay.
Sorry about
So
that.
Brisbane and Gold Coast are FS1. Western and Melbourne is on FS2. You would think those would be switched just on the talents, but either way. And Carlton and GWS will be at 8 p.m. on Saturday on FS2. Your Geelong Cats go up against Port Adelaide. A game you guys should win.
Should be an easy win, but nothing has come easy for Geelong. Even though they are on 6 straight, it's just anything can happen. And in seeing what Richmond did to us, and then for them to lose to North Melbourne, it's kind of the same key any given Sunday. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one.
I totally forgot to see who won the Summer League. Did you see? I know San Antonio finally got their first win of the summer on their last game.
I did not do anything.
It was the Portland Trailblazers defeated my New York Knicks. What? My Knicks almost won something? I mean, it was just Summer League, but oh, man. Portland defeated New York in the championship 85-77. I did see that Austin Johnson, who was coaching with San Antonio, they did get their first win on that extra game that every team plays right there at the end. So congratulations to them there. Hopefully we'll get Austin on at some point before the basketball season and talk about that experience. Let's go to NASCAR, and let's talk about the interesting news that came out today first before we do the results. NASCAR announced today that they are going to have the first street race in NASCAR history when they race on the streets of Chicago next year on July 2nd. It's going to take the spot of Road America, which is disappointing. I like that race, but they are getting to the point of having too many road courses. But what are your thoughts on NASCAR kind of doing what Formula One and Indy cars do and having races on the actual streets of a city?
It'll be interesting to see, especially how souped up those motors get in Formula One cars and what those guys can do, bringing it inside a city. The only thing I'd be worried about is watching flying debris, because we know how much tires shredding happens on both of those type of cars. It'll be interesting to see.
Oh, they'll have netting and stuff. It'll just be interesting to have a downtown area completely shut down for a few days.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But they're trying to expand their sport a little bit, even more and more. So
yeah, they're trying things. The dirt track stuff was interesting. The race in a football stadium at the Coliseum, I thought, was a great exhibition race. Now having your first street race, you got to try new things, and I'm happy that NASCAR is doing that. I follow a guy on YouTube. His name's Vlad Radman, who does usually like NASCAR video game stuff, but he's a big NASCAR fan, and I listened to him today talking about it, and I'm kind of with him where I wish they would get to the point where every track has one event. So we're not going to places twice, but you're not going to ever not have 2 Daytona races. You're not going to not have 2 Talladega races or 2 Martinsville races and stuff. So it's difficult, but it is sad to see Road America lose a spot when there are other tracks that you would think, like Atlanta does not need 2 tracks or 2 events there, but they're working on things and trying different things. It was an interesting race at New Hampshire over the weekend. Christopher Bell gets his first win of the season. He holds off against Chase Elliott, who kind of fell off there the last 20 laps or so. So now Christopher Bell, who was in the playoffs already, I believe he was in 15th, and 16 drivers make the playoffs, but now he has a win. So now out of the 16 playoff spots, 14 of them have a win. So there's only 2 spots that are based off of points, which is absolutely insane to me. Kevin Harvick would not make the playoffs if it were to start today. And there's 6 races to go. Yeah, Pocono this weekend, the Indy Road Course, Michigan, Richmond, Watkins Glen, and Daytona, which is a complete wild card left. Robert, my question to you: will a driver win a race and miss the playoffs this year?
It could be. It's going to be interesting to see, especially how many new drivers and different drivers and how it's spread out this year. So it could possibly happen.
Look at the PBA real quick. Portland Lumberjacks last week won their 3rd straight Elias Cup. That's only remembered by me for the emotions of Norm Duke at the end. If you have not seen that, I showed it to Haley, and she even teared up at it, where they gave him kind of that last strike to finish it off, even though he was playing on the Dallas's team. Fantastic moment, and the end of that Game 5 was insane.
And totally crazy with what they could do. But I for me, besides the Norm Duke thing, was seeing what Arturo Quintero brought to that Portland team with his enthusiasm, how he bowled, unbelievable. But I was the same way. I kind of had the goosebumps and everything with that, watching Norm Duke throw that last ball.
Kyle Troop wins the Strike Derby, and Jake Peters wins the All-Star Clash. I know I talked to you about bringing a Clash format somewhere in our skills competition. Strike Derby kind of sounds fun too.
I
be interesting to get either of those work. We gotta figure this out, especially with this year's schedule where everything's molded together on multiple weeks and stuff. So maybe we'll have to wait a year, but we'll see. I only watched a little bit of the Open, unfortunately. Every time I work late on the weekend, so then when I woke up, I caught I turned it on to watch Cameron Smith put it in to win. That's about it.
For the only time that I didn't watch is when you and I were together on Friday when we played golf. You and I got out and hit a few golf balls. Yes, you won. But that was an unbelievable tournament. Cameron Smith ends up winning it after having set the course record for the Open, 13 under for the first 2 days. Has a terrible 1 over par day where his putter just couldn't do nothing. That was the day Rory McIlroy made the push. He had an unbelievable day. Had an eagle out of the bunker on 10 that was huge with emotion. Victor Hovland played really well, but then on Sunday really didn't have anything. But Cam Smith, 8 under, 64 on Sunday. He had a 64 on Thursday. But to shoot 6 under on the backside, which is the toughest side of that course on Sunday, to come back and win by 2 strokes. Rory falls to third. Heartbreaking for Rory because that crowd was so behind him. But what Cameron Smith did, what Cameron Young, I am looking forward to seeing what Cameron Young can bring to this tournament over the next few years. But the main thing, and I'll keep it short and sweet, was probably the last walk up of Tiger Woods on 18 on Friday, him crossing the bridge. He played with Max Homa and Matt Fitzpatrick. Both of them stayed back as he walked the bridge. You can look, there's pictures. You see Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas stop on the hole next to them to let him walk across St. Andrews for the last time. Is this the last time we see him at the Open? I think so, because
no,
I don't see him being there.
The last time we see him at St. Andrews.
It might be the last time at St. Andrews. St. Andrews will be back another 5 years, so it'll be about 2028. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, I think he'll be back next year. I just don't think he'll be there when St. Andrews comes back around. There's another touching moment that we saw there for sure. But that's going to do it. We've made it through 91 of these things. We filled 2 hours really easily with nothing going on. So I'm proud of ourselves for being able to BS all the way through that. Next week, second half of Major League Baseball will start. Training camp started today for some rookie camps. The Jets were one of them, but by next week, all of training camps will be open, so we'll be able to talk more about that. We're getting closer and closer to actually doing our predictions for the NFL and college football seasons. We still need to come up with the formats we want to do on that and the scheduling, but we're still going to continue to do our preseason stuff and kind of rank things. We'll let you know what we're doing next week. Don't forget, if you are watching this late, go vote on our sports-related draft. Since we didn't have anybody live doing that this week, it'll be up on the Facebook page. And we're 5 away from 600. And you want to see one of us get beat up in a training, if not both of us, from the sounds of it. We'll see how that goes. But that is it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us throughout this hot summer. I got to get out of this room and get down to work. So I'm out of here. But for now, that's Robert. He's over there, this way. Robert, I'm Randy. We'll see you next week. But for now, we are